Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be painting some beautiful leaves. I'm going to be using these beautiful wisteria leaves as a source of inspiration. There is a video available where I've painted these, but as with anything, you get better and better as you go along. So what I want to be thinking about first is how to loosen up. So I'm going to suggest you start with a little bit of loosening up as an exercise. I'm just going to adjust my camera slightly so you can see a little more of my palette. Yep, that's better. All right, let's start with a lovely loosening up exercise. If you have a leaf, that's a wonderful place to start. One of the things you can do as a loosening up exercise is to do a controlled drawing called a continuous line drawing. And I said controlled drawing, but in fact, what I mean is exactly the opposite. So what you do is, there's just two rules, and that is once your pen touches the paper, then you can't take the paper, you don't take the pen off until you've finished your drawing. And you can do this as an exercise at any time with any object, and it means that you get all these beautiful negative spaces because you can't take your pen off the page. And it's also an exercise in observation, so you've got to try and really keep your eye as much as possible on the object in front of you, because you really start to focus. It's quite a lovely thing to do, and it's something you can get better and better at. I'm going off the page there. Better and better at, and it's really can be very satisfying, and it definitely is something that I really enjoy doing because I've been doing them for a long time. See all the lovely negative spaces that are appearing already? And I'm moving quite quickly, but you can take your time when you do it instead. So at the moment I'm using a Tombow marker, but you can do a warm-up exercise in anything. I'm using a cheaper watercolor paper, just so that I think that helps me loosen up as well. And then I'm going to spritz it because it's a water-soluble marker. I'm just doing that to loosen myself up. The other thing I'm going to do to loosen myself up is add a little bit of paint. So I'm going to be using two colors today, Cascade Green and Quinacridone Rose. I'm a big fan of using a limited palette, and so that's what I'm going to be doing, is using a limited palette, just two colors. And probably you could argue that I'm kind of using three colors because Cascade Green is made up of two colors. This is Quinacridone Rose. I'm going to put it in this spot here. This is my permanent rose position on my palette, but I think there's not that much difference between Quinacridone Rose and permanent rose. And for my purposes, that's just fine that they're the same. I've got a couple of brushes ready. I've got, they're both black gold quills, so they've got these beautiful points, very handy to use. And I've got a size 2 and a 00. I've got those ready just next to my palette. I've also got a little tiny liner brush. This is a Richardson size 4. The other thing that I've been enjoying using lately is one of these Dynasty brushes with the acrylic handle, and it's got a chiseled edge to it. I'm kind of moving it around, so hopefully that's easy to see, with a lovely flat edge over here. So 4 brushes in total. I've spritzed on a little bit of water. I'm just going to, oh, there's a whole stack of yellow on that brush. Obviously, I didn't wash that off last time. I'm just going to spend a moment quite mindfully, quite calmly moving around some of that lovely water-soluble marker I really find that very mindful, as in quite relaxing. Just gets me into the zone, and that's all I need, is something that gets me into the zone. Painting at the moment, negative spaces only. And then I think I will put a little bit of Cascade Green down, grab a little bit and make a puddle, and put in little touches of Cascade Green. So Cascade Green, in case you don't have it, is one of those colours that splits into the colours it's made up of. And it's a really beautiful green as it goes on, and then as it spreads around, it splits out and a blue can be dispersed from it. If you can see down here, there's a beautiful bit of blue separating out from the other colours. It's really very beautiful. I love it. That's it for my warm-up exercise. I'm just washing my brushes off. The other thing that I've got ready today are some little bowls, because we're going to be doing a tonal exercise, and that means that I'm going to need some really pale batches of colour. Okay, that was a lovely quick loosening up exercise. I'm just going to get rid of that one. And then I'm going to jump straight into the exercise that's about tonal painting. I've got a sheet of ash. This is A3 size. I thought it might be a little more spectacular to paint on in the larger size. That's the top of the sheet. That's the way it comes, as in this is the way, if you open the pad, that's the top side of the pad. I'm going to tape down all four sides because I'm about to use a fair amount of water. The benefits of doing an exercise, a warm-up exercise that uses the same object you're about to paint, is that you automatically spend quality time staring at the object you're about to paint. So already I've got in my mind, just by doing a really lovely quick observational drawing, I've already got the beautiful shape of the leaf in mind. Okay, now these are wisteria leaves that I've got, and in reality they hang down. So I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently to the other video that I made on this same subject, and I'm going to have them hang down. I'm not going to bother to draw them, but if you prefer to draw first, then of course that's what you'll do, because always do things that satisfy you. Okay, I've got some Cascade Green in there, and then I'm going to get a stack of water. I actually have pipettes sometimes. I also have a bottle for this situation where I can pour a whole stack of water really quickly in. Stack of water means that you have really pale colour. And I'm going to go straight in to paint these leaves, using the belly for the shape of the leaf and the tip to create the tip of the leaf. And there's a short one. So the whole time I'm following this example here. Oh, I've just realized it's not quite in focus there. I'll just move my camera a little bit so you can see more of my page. If I go out, that's a bit better, isn't it? I could go over a tiny bit, over. That's probably better. And I'll zoom in a touch as well. And right, that should work a little better. Okay, I stopped in the middle of that leaf. Not an ideal thing to do in watercolour. Since I'm putting that little dish on my paper, I'm just going to protect my paper in case I make a mess with the dish there. Each time I dip into my green, I'm going to re-stir it because it's the different pigments that are mixed into it will constantly settle to the bottom of the dish. So I'm going to be constantly trying to mix it as I gather my paint. Lovely big leaf down the bottom. It's a little bit wet because it's raining here today in Sydney, so that's why it's a little bit wet. Go over there. Go over there. I'm going to make some of them start to touch now. I'm starting to get into the zone here of painting these leaves, and this one comes down. So I'm constantly staring at the leaf for my inspiration. And I'll find that as I move onto the next layer and the next layer, because that's what we're going to do, about 6 layers, I'll find that I constantly get better. I'm switching to my little rigger so that I can put in a light pale stem, and I'll put in some little attaching sticks or stems, I suppose you might call them, stems. Drag it through the leaf out there, through the leaf out there, and just join them up. Oh, that one. These will be the background leaves, so you really won't notice them that much by the end. Okay, I need to just reorganize my space a little bit. Put the color on this side so that I can paint a leaf over here. So that one went that way, so perhaps this one can go further out that way. Same brush, same batch of beautiful paper. You can start to see the color separating a little bit. Okay, leaves again. I'm going to try and make them touch these leaves that I've already painted too. On this first layer, you don't need to put in much detail at all. Because they'll all be sent backwards. And when I say sent backwards, the tone of these being light will send them backwards. And the other thing that will send them backwards is other layers that will go over the top. And some more leaves, and this time they're going to go off the page. I'm going to start to attempt to leave out more and more of those little veins, so a little bit of detail creeping in there. I'm doing a little half leaf because there actually is a little half leaf on the leaves I have. Constantly trying to stare at the leaves, but I am inventing a bit of the connections that they're making because they're a little bit separated. And then I'm going to switch to my rigger and join them up. Some stems, some stems, some stems, 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 stems. And I could put in some little details, but in fact it's so early in the painting process, I'm just doing beautiful pale ones. Okay, I need that to dry, so I'm just going to grab my dryer, move this out of the way. I need that to be beautifully dry before I put down layer number 2. Forgive the noise for a minute. Then what you do is change the color if you want to. I'm going to now bring in some of that beautiful quinacridone pink and add some of the green. See what kind of a beautiful purpley color I get. It's too pink. I'm going to go back to the green side. Just mixing up a color there. And put that one aside. And I'm going to repeat the process. I'm touch more water, I think. I don't want it lighter, and I actually do want it darker. Now I've got one that way, so I'm going to put one that's quite centrally here that goes this way. Hopefully that's glazing on nicely. Now I'm being quite quick with the application of the paint because we're now glazing and I don't want the paint below to be disturbed. I want it to, the paint below to remain as much as possible beautifully undisturbed. I'm trying very hard to put in some really fast, negatively painted veins. Making some leaves touch here, touch there, and then continue down. If I give my brush a little bit of a wriggle, I'll get some oddly shaped edges. And some of these leaves really do have oddly shaped, kind of wrinkly edges. Okay, switch to my liner brush and put in the stem and little tiny joining stems. And we're halfway done. This same batch of colour I'm going to use again. So just thinking compositionally, I've got, oh, thanks, Dave. That's great. Glad you found me. That's so good. I've got one here, one there, and one there. So, Dave, it took you a little while to find me. So have you got any tips for people who are having trouble finding the live stream? Because I might be able to put that on somewhere else, put that information somewhere else. You could type it in, and I'm going to keep painting just while you give someone tips about it. Right, I've got one there, one here. How will it look if I add one there? I think I might keep, or I might increase the angle. Maybe I'll go like that. How will that look? Yep, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Same brush, same batch of paint. I'm going on an angle like that. I'm going to try and hold the leaf in the position that I'm painting. The beauty of having some masking tape around the edge of the page is that you can use it like I did here with this first leaf. You just paint over it. Sometimes paintings that have parts of the painting that go outside the frame, it can be really quite interesting rather than forcing the frame to keep you within a certain shape. Big one down here. Now, the first lot of purple ones haven't quite dried, but I'm just going to forge ahead anyway. If I'd planned it a little more carefully, I would have avoided that. But I love to free paint. Sometimes it came up a minute on your channel. I just logged into YouTube and it appears as you're a subscriber, yeah. And you need to be a subscriber in order to make comments too. So that's a good point about being a subscriber. I'm going straight over those purple ones. I'm really would have liked them to have dried to get a slightly different effect, because if you can see there, those purple ones just mixed. So rather than getting a glaze of a purple over purple, they just mixed because of my my desire to just keep painting. And little sticks, little sticks, little sticks, little sticks that are joining up the leaves to the stems, like that. And as I mentioned, there is a full video on this exact subject. Okay, for layer number 3, and we're about 3/4 of the way through the tutorial now. On layer number 3, I want to go back to the green. And so I'm going to put that little one up there, bring down my green. So I'm alternating from green to purple and back again. It's come up like a purple, but it's actually a mixture of quinacridone rose and cascade green. I'm going to go back to my green, and I'm coming in with another layer. So I really want this one to be beautifully dark. I'm just going to put my leaf down for a moment so that I get more cascade green. May as well squeeze it straight out of here, straight into there. So I don't know, about a half a pea sized amount that I've added in. Same brush, my lovely quill, but I want the green to go darker. So all I've done is increase the intensity of my green by making it darker. Okay. I think I might even consider adding a little bit of the purple just to change up the color from the first layer. Made almost no difference, but that's okay. Now I'm going to go and dry this layer so that I can glaze on another layer. Excuse the noise for a moment. If this green is dark enough, I might make it my final leaf. I'm quite enjoying these white spaces, so I think I will leave them as white. I want this leaf to be beautifully dark, so it could go there, it could go there. I did quite like that sense of movement that I was creating with the first couple, so I might put it there. Okay, the green is darker. We know that because I just squeezed green straight into it. And it's lovely and dry now, ready for this next layer. And if I'm lucky, the final layer. So on this one, this final layer, I'm going to come in with my liner brush, dip straight into pure cascade green, and see if I can drop in a bit of extra detail. And I'm going to dip straight into quinacridone rose. Oh, that's off the view of the camera, so I think I'll go in here. I'll put some quinacridone rose there, pure quinacridone rose, and again a little bit of wet in wet for a bit of detail. It's looking like a nice deep tone, so that's lovely. Next leaf, I'll try and be a little more imaginative about the leaf and a little more careful about the detail. Dip into pure quinacridone green And that will nicely increase the intensity, and dip into pure quinacridone pink. Some there, some there. Next leaf is the third one here. It's this really short one. I quite like the short one. I'm going to make them touch, even though they may or may not touch. And it's short and it's a bit wonky. Pure green to intensify, and pure pink, which I've got sitting on the side of that little dish, to intensify again, make the vein a little more interesting. Back onto my colour, my green. Oh, I dropped a bit there. There. So to mix it up a little, I've got the brush I mentioned at the beginning that's got a chiseled edge to it, and I see if I can, yeah, nice timing for some lifting out with a chiseled edge. It will work with a whole range of implements. Yeah, see, this one's not quite ready for it. That one was too wet. Those ones had been painted about a minute earlier, and that seems to be about enough time to do a bit of scratching out. Putting in the two thick colours, pure colours. The whole thing is being painted in a limited palette. I'm up to this leaf here now. I'm going to make them touch and do some more of that wonky line. Thick colour. Go in there. Trying to vary each leaf, so each leaf will look a little different to the others. Now I've come to the really big, beautiful fat leaf on the bottom. There. And over there, try and leave a little vein in the middle. I want to make that one more carefully painted because that one's going to sit on the top and it kind of is sticking right out. Hopefully it will look quite dominant, so will look like a lovely focal point. So this leaf I'm giving even more detail to, with a bit of thicker paint into thinner paint. Go back to this one and see if it's time to lift out a little bit. Actually, that one was even too wet. It's gone back into the colour there. How's this? See if I can lift this one out again. This is, the paper is Arche, and it can handle anything you throw at it like this. Okay, that's going quite well. I'll come back and scratch this one out a little later. I'm back up the top here on this right-hand side. So if you wanted to paint this tutorial, a range of leaves will work, but something with a series of leaves that stick out is wonderful. So you could do this with gum leaves. It would be beautiful with gum leaves. In fact, I'm giving this one a bit of detail and a bit of quinacridone pink. It wouldn't work quite so well with autumn leaves, but I'm very happy to be proven wrong about that. If you've done it with autumn leaves, then good on you. I'd love to see what you've done. So you can tag me on Instagram. I've got a community page on YouTube. You can comment there as well. Just going to put in some detail with my thick paint. It's practically straight out of the tube, this thick paint I've got on my liner brush. Just go back to, hey, hi Zhu Huan. I hope I'm saying that right. From Fiji, that's really cool. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to do another one on Wednesday, but in the morning. And the subject will be flowers. So it'd be great if you'd like to join me again. Bit of scratching out here at the moment. And this one kind of half went back into the scratching area there. So I don't mind happy accidents like that. I'm going to leave that as it is. Right, I'm up to this leaf on the right-hand side. I'm trying the whole time to always take my cue from nature, not make up the ideas that not use the ideas I've got in my head, the techniques I've got in my head, but the beauty always comes straight from nature. A little bit of permanent pure pigment there. That's the pink. It's not permanent rose, it's quinacridone rose, which is incredibly similar. Back to my beautiful green. That's great, Zoo. Thank you. Am I saying it right, Zoo? Hey, Jasmine, you joined in. That's so cool. And Jasmine's going to come on Wednesday. Oh, that is wonderful, Jasmine. Thank you. I thought I'd do one now to practice. That's so if you found it a bit surprising that I'm here now doing it, it's because I thought, oh, I think I should master this technology so that I don't log in on Wednesday morning and spend time going, the technology is not working. I want this to be beautifully streamlined. I'm going to come in with a little more. I've got some more of this quinacridone pink on my palette. I'm just transferring it there so that you can see it. And I'm adding just pure pigment, and it's going into the wet and wet. And when you use really thick paint and add it into wet and wet, it barely moves. It really quite sits there, but you still get beautiful softness, which I love. I'm just going to close the gap a little bit on this vein, like that. And then I think I've done them all. One, and there's the big one. I was going to keep painting and add another, but in fact, there's two, and one big one. So I've been quite faithful to the number of leaves. That's about it, though. Azu says, is your palette limited? Is your palette primarily Daniel Smith? It certainly is for, good question. It certainly is for this tutorial right now, because these two colors, Cascade Green and Quin Rose, are Daniel Smith, as you've asked, but I'm happy to use any of the premium brands. I use a bit of Holbein. This one is Sennelier. I love that one as well. I've got more Holbein there. This is what's just sitting there. But on my palette, I've got a bit of everything of the premium brands. I only paint with premium brands now because you never know which painting's going to work out. Now I'm going to put in the stem, which starts down here and goes up. And I think I'll make it thicker. So I'm dipping. The brush is loaded with the watery Daniel Smith, with the watery Cascade Green. I'm dipping in and making it a little fatter. And I'm just going to drop in some thicker paint. And at the very top is a knobby bit. So I'm going to include the knobby bit and then add some of the pure pink into the knob and just drop in little bits down to here. And then go back to that green and put in the little joining stem as I go along. Oh, that's that leaf there. And mostly the stems even, I'll put that in view, mostly the stems pretty much line up with each other. That one to that one, that one to that one, which joins to this. Final details back to my acrylic handled brush. This one's too dry to do anything to. Yes, it's too dry, so it's not going to do a thing. This one is beautifully full of pigment and still wet, but it is moving a little bit into it. And this one just lifting out little bits. I really want that one on the top to have the most detail. I wonder if I can lift out a little bit on. Oh yes, I can there. Just putting in some further veins, but I'm only doing detail on the top. leaves because I really want them to shine more than the other leaves. And final little details. And this is the moment, I'm about to reach the moment where you need to make your decision about, is it finished? Does it have a focal point? Are there a beautiful range of tones? So I've got light tones, mid-tones, dark tones. I'm pretty satisfied with those dark tones and the light tones. I don't think there's much more I could add to it, except to think about where my signature is going to go, because this is pointing down in this direction. So if I put my signature here, do I want this big emphasis coming down and putting it there? And also this is a small spot and this is rather a large spot. So I think I should put I'm just going to turn it on the side. It's easier for my hand. I'm going to use the little tiny liner and sign my name around here. I'm going to use that beautiful purple, and that might balance out the amount of green. When I'm painting a watercolor, I'm going to stop talking for a second because so often I make a mistake. Marion Chapman. So I'm using the mix that I made. Marion Chapman. On the odd occasion, I've if I'm not focusing as I paint my name, I can paint other words. I've on the odd occasion listened to a podcast and slowly painted the word that I listened to on the podcast that I found interesting. Just before I go, I'm going to zoom in and just talk about a couple of things. I'm looking for my remote. Here it is. So I'm going to zoom in on the painting and hopefully fill the screen just with the painting. Up a little bit. It's a little bit backwards there. Okay. Now, hopefully you can see some of the detail a bit better. I'll zoom in even further. How's that? Yeah, that's a bit better. You can see the detail where I scratched out with the acrylic tool, which is just the other end of this brush. Oh, it's a Dynasty size 12 and it's a flat. I really wish they made some lovely mops because I would use even more of them. There's the leaves. You can see the leaves. You can see some of the pink that I dropped in as I was going. And you can definitely see the glazing that I was aiming for in the background. I really appreciate you guys joining me today. And as I said, I'm going to come back on Wednesday this week. So in 2 days' time. So it'll be Wednesday, the 23rd of March, and it'll be at 9:30 in the morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. You can watch this whole thing again because YouTube uploads the whole thing to my live section of my YouTube channel. Thanks, guys. See you soon. See you Wednesday, I hope. Bye.